All right, thanks everybody for coming. I've heard lots of great things about this session, so I'm very excited to introduce Chad and Danielle from American Airlines to talk about Jamf Trust.
This is already messed up because in my brain when I envisioned this, I thought I was going to be on the other side. So I'm good. Okay, yeah, this is better now.
I have to be accommodating. It's fine.
So welcome. Thank you all for coming out. We hope this is informative for y'all. And we're going to take lots of questions at the end because it's a unique process to how you manage mobile and mobile security. So this is one of my favorite quotes ever from Steve Jobs. You know, and I think at Jamf and this group in general, we really celebrate the ones who challenge the status quo, defy limitations, and dare to reimagine what's possible. Some will call them innovators, mavericks, rebels. We just call them cowboys. So if you see the boots, you got it. So what this is about, to put it another way, you either drive change or you're driven by change. So you have to make that decision. Are you going to be at the front or are you going to be pulled along?
So with that, obviously, we want to go into detail on, the mobile security standpoint from mobile. It's quickly becoming an overlapping laptops, desktops, all of that. We're having more mobile endpoints than those other endpoints in the environments, and basically, we're out here touting that mobile security should be taken seriously. It's not incidental. It's something that we all need to look at. And these are just a few of the ways that we can be more realistic and reduce, or these are some of the ways that people are taking advantage of these devices in real time. So, and with the development of AI, these types of vulnerabilities are only becoming more realistic as we go into those things. So, the AI-driven hackers, things of that nature, phishing, it's getting more realistic and easier to believe. I know I've gotten caught a few times at work where they'll send out a phishing campaign. I'm like, ooh, did I really do that? Like, is that? And I'm like, no, surely it's not. You see more people being taken advantage of every day.
And I know all of you are getting the phishing emails on your personal emails. You're getting the smishing. You're getting all the SMS ones. I mean, I get them all the time about something. And something about, different ones that I owe money on something. I'm like, I don't even know what you're talking about. But, call in, I'm going to lose my toll tag or something. I'm like, what? So it's really important. I think as we look at this, one of the things we want to talk about is the data really speaks for itself. And one of the ones that we started out with was the phishing attacks and how they're more successful on mobile because people don't think as much we're on mobile. We see that even within our internal phishing attacks when we do it at AA to do our test, that most people who click on them, they're on their mobile device because they're just quick, they're clicking on them right away.
53% of organizations experience a mobile attack every year. So that's a large number when you think of it from an enterprise perspective. That's huge. So it's something that we should all take seriously. Go ahead. If you want.
Okay.
Next.
So I think one of the 45% of organizations suffer a mobile-related compromise, and I think it's something that we have to start realizing that mobile, we all love our mobile devices, but unfortunately, this is a new perimeter. These things go places that your laptops, desktops, frontline sets will never go, and that's the threat we have to look at. And one of the most interesting things, I think, is a joint report by Zimperium and Ponemon, I can't even pronounce that, Ponemon Institute, which said that 91% of mobile devices have suffered a compromise in the last year.
The number that just came up on the screen kind of supports that. 80 to 90% of ransomware attacks come from unmanaged devices. So not even the devices that you're managing within your tool set now, it's the personal devices that are out there that are accessing company data. It's personal data. It's not just company data. So big numbers.
So we look at this and why does mobile need a unique approach? always on, always connected, right? It's not like you shut your laptop down, you're done for the day. You're always on. If you do COPE, where it's corporately owned but personally enabled, they've got their Facebook, they've got their Instagram, they've got TikTok, if you allow TikTok, they've got whatever social media, they've got X, they're always on these devices.
OS architecture and update cadence, that's another item, so obviously securing things such as the OS. We know so many vulnerabilities come out of OSs, and those need to be patched, and we need to make sure that our fleet is keeping up with the up-to-date OSs. App-centric versus file-centric. So it's really about the app, right? And how secure is that app? What is that app doing on that device? It's not just about securing the device, but also looking at the apps on that device. So BYOD and privacy boundaries. I'm going to ask for a show of hands here. How many of you use your devices to access company data? Raise your hand. Okay. How many of you, when you landed in Denver, connected to a hotel or airport or free Wi-Fi? Okay. How many of your devices are managed by your company that you did this on? How many are not? All of these devices are at risk. All of them.
So we talk about the network and location aware threats. I want you to think, because the kidnapper van, the white van that's got spray paint on the side, free Wi-Fi, you laugh, but you all know someone at your company who would try to connect to it and not even think about it. And that's the kind of things, making your end users more aware and also protecting them from themselves.
Lightweight cloud-native security tools. So obviously in our case, we've selected a security tool that is cloud-hosted. It's, works on the device very well, no user interaction. All of those things are very important to all of our users, because nobody wants to sit and deploy a tool that is cumbersome to manage, cumbersome to deploy, or takes a lot of heavy lifting to get out there.
There we go. And so, we talk about that, and then we talk about, here's one of the things that we see is in a lot of organizations, and it was in ours as well, is that you have this separation between cyber and mobile. And people think of cyber as this monolith, and it's really not a monolith. There's different teams within cyber, but they don't necessarily understand how the end users are using their devices, right? They set out policies. We're going to block this. We're going to block this. We're going to set this tool out there. But how does that impact the end user? So what we see is a convergence of mobility and cybersecurity. We see it more as a shared responsibility, where mobility manages the endpoints. We will push. You just tell us the policies. We will push the policies to the device, but let us control it, because we can keep a lot of things from causing a problem for those end users, impacting end user experience or operations possibly.
Unified visibility and control, so where we think about that from that, so obviously security manages the incident response and things of that nature from the security perspective, and then we're responsible for the device and the life cycle, the OS, and the apps on those devices, and making sure that those are staying up to date, and basically dividing but coming together on how those are rolled out, essentially.
And then we talk about zero trust enablement, right? So we've worked with them for conditional access controls, ZTNA. We assume that only healthy devices are able to connect to network resources or to certain applications.
Faster incident response. We're mobility. We know how to put that device into a lockdown. We know how to quarantine that device quickly so that way we can secure the gap there, while cybersecurity can go and investigate that incident and figure out what was compromised, what we need to do to make sure our data is secure. And so it's once again, that give and take. We have to work together.
So that's really where you have the privacy and compliance balance out, right? Cybersecurity ensures that protection meets the frameworks, whether it's NIST, HIPAA, TSA, SOC 2, and we really focus on the end user integration of that with UEM, MDM to complement each other.
And then from technology integration, this kind of goes hand in hand with us using the same tools and converging these tools and having this data kind of converge on its own. We are able then to basically get a whole picture and make proactive defenses together.
So did it go? More, there we go. So when you take it and you we use tool, in this case we use Jamf Protect, to bridge that gap between mobility and cybersecurity. It turns the device compliance into security signal from the mobility side. Jamf Protect continuously monitors OS versions, security configurations, app reputation, and device health. From the cybersecurity side, the compliance checks become real-time inputs for the systems and zero trust enforcement. So it really extends out the MDM with threat defense. Enables a shared incident response, right? So now we get in a situation where it's not just cyber seeing something, but mobility seeing something, and we can work together on that. And it protects beyond the corporate barrier, right? So you're off network, because these devices connect everywhere, whether it's cellular, hotel Wi-Fi, the kidnapper van Wi-Fi, they're connecting everywhere. So it's making that security. So the big thing is, I'll let Danielle start out on the how and how we did it.
So yeah, this was a really interesting and I guess a long road that we kind of broached. We started off obviously with a different use case, not necessarily security in mind, but we had a difficult user experience that was brought to us from one of our groups in Tech Ops where we were just trying to improve the user experience. And so we went to Jamf with the problem and said, hey, this is what's going on. I think last year we sat on the same stage, or 2 years ago, I know it is, the same stage that we were here for JNUC, and they rolled out Jamf Trust, and we said, how can this tool kind of help solve this problem? And when we started seeing the data come in and started seeing all the information that started coming in, we kind of took it and said, we can do more. We can do more than just solve this user experience, and we can do more with all this data. And so with that, we went around and we basically opened up a POC, a large POC, and said, okay, we're going to put this out there. We're going to see what this data is. And then we started working with all of our teams within AA. So your security team, your network team, and we just started having like touch points. Not calling your baby ugly in the tool that you've selected, but we've kind of said, hey, we are looking at this tool for a different reason. It runs alongside your tool if need be, but we think there's value in this data. Is this something that's valuable to you? And started just kind of showing them the data that we were seeing. And then they started going back and saying, oh, are we seeing this data in our tool? Are we taking action on it? Are we doing anything with it? Do we have the ability to do anything with it? And that's where we kind of bridged the gap and said, hey, we know these end users. We know these groups that we're working with. We know how these devices are used. We understand the use cases, and we have the context to be able to enforce these and make our devices more secure and make better decisions based on all of this. So as we were meeting with these groups multiple times, it wasn't necessarily, oh, let's walk in, let's have a meeting, and they were sold. It was hey, we're looking at this. What do you think? Multiple touch points along the way. Here's where the data is. 30 days later, we met again and said, hey, this is the data we've collected. It's all big things, Hey, are you taking action on this? Is this something that's important to you? And that's where kind of it opened their eyes and said, oh, hey, maybe we should pay attention to this. Maybe they know what to do with this data. And so that's kind of where it was, we kind of won it over from that perspective, and I think even took it a step further, and we included the network team on our side of the house to improve the user experience. And with that, we were actually one of the first groups within AA to roll out a ZTNA experience from the network side, so we beat the network team to their own touting point, but hey, it's all good. But it's more about working together and bridging those gaps and not being afraid to go to those groups and be told no, because you will be told no. That's like an automatic. It's continuing to push, continue to knock, be the squeaky wheel.
Yeah, and I think one of the big things, a lot of people look at cybersecurity and they see this monolith, and there's not. It's the different teams. So when we presented, and I think Dave, who was supposed to be up here with us, could have done this in his sleep. He gave this presentation so many times. And it was, it was the CERT team, the Cyber Incident Response team. It was the ones running our SIEM, different teams, even our CERT team. We gave it to every team we could look at in cybersecurity and just look for who saw the light, right? Who went, this makes sense. A lot of them were like, we don't want to talk to you. But other ones came back and were like, hold on, there's something here that we're missing, and this will solve not only problems for you, but problems for us. And that was really why we sit there and say, this is not a one and done. It's multiple meetings across multiple months, if you will. And then you go to the executive side, right? Now you've got to get the executive sponsorship on this, and you really got to help drive that. And one of the big things we did was we presented to our leadership, and we got buy-in from our VP. And when he looked at it, then suddenly he became one of our champions to help drive this. And he helped drive this through by, once again, the same presentation again, except now we're in a conference room giving this presentation to, he would bring in other VPs. Look at this, look at this, look at this. Look at the art of the possible. Look what we can do with data policies. Look what we can do with blocking DNS threat, what we can do with proxy, and what we can do here. And you started seeing the wheels start to turn among a lot of different groups, both from our app team side to our shared infrastructure side, to cyber, to network. It all came up together.
Before, I know you're clicking on, but I want to add in there, I think the biggest thing that where our VP kind of got behind us and said, yes, I will tout this, we will go, is we were able to make decisions. We use data policies, the cellular spend, all of that. We were able to go and you can actually see the app utilization. And that was huge for us because, we all spend money in app development. We all spend, money to get a product that we hope our end users will use and make their jobs easier. But this tool was able to give us the insights to know how much personal usage was happening on a device, how much corporate usage was happening on a device, what apps that we've delivered from a corporate perspective were being used on a device. Was our money being well invested? If an app wasn't being used, why wasn't it being used? Is it something we should fix? Is there something wrong with it? Is it even worth putting out there? So from a roadmap perspective, teams were able to make better educated decisions in where to spend their app development money. Whether or not an app had something that needed to be fixed or if they should just shift gears and move towards something else. That added a lot of value. And then also in the personal space, if you want to try to limit your cellular spend, you have the ability to do that from being able to shut off personal usage over cellular and push them to Wi-Fi. There's a lot of controls there. There's a lot of different options you have without hindering the user experience.
Right. So a lot of you probably are too young to remember Casablanca, but it was one of my mother's favorite movies of all time. And I think it's the beginning of a beautiful friendship because when you work with cybersecurity and you do what we do, we actually sit right next to cybersecurity now. And we are so involved. Before, it was just policies. They came down and we're like, oh, how do we enable this? Now it's like, hey, we're thinking about this. How can you help us achieve this? And so it's really formed that communication channel and really that ability to work between the verticals. Final thoughts. Whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. So, if you look and say, hi, we can't do this at my company, you're right, you can't. If you think you can, you can. But most importantly, you can, you should, and if you're brave enough, you will. You just have to forge through it and go for it. So I know we said a lot really quick, so hopefully you have some questions. So, yes. Hold on, I think she's going to get you a mic.
She's going to come with a mic, so we'll...
I have a few, but maybe I can talk to you guys after. But are you managing like corporate-owned devices, or are you doing the BYOD?
So currently, we're doing all corporate-owned devices. We are developing a BYOD process. Currently, our BYOD devices are not managed. We don't have them in any form of our MDM, but there is a roadmap, and it's actually kind of evolved. The same CISO that kind of gave executive sponsorship to this project, we later said, hey, this is another area of risk, this is another area of opportunity, we think you should take a look. And after kind of giving some of the data from this project, he obviously knows if it's happening on corporate devices, I'm sure it's worse on personal. So it's kind of spearheaded that conversation, and those are conversations we're having now.
Okay, so just one more question. Like, do you know like what the demographic of devices would be in your BYOD? Would it be, you know, like for us, it's like 80% iOS, 20 Android that we're looking at?
I think when we looked at it, we were about 28% Android and 60% iOS. I think maybe our percentages on Androids are just a little bit higher. I don't know what company you're with, but because we have an international presence, so we see a higher Android percentage there.
With Jamf Protect, does your team handle like the software, the platform, keeping everything up to date, all of that, and security benefits from that and looks at all the metrics and everything, or does security handle all of the administration of the Protect platform?
So we actually managed, that was the biggest thing we had, and we're reaping the benefits of it. I'll kind of give an example. So our desktop team uses another tool, and security manages that, and we have had outages and things of that nature because security's made policy changes, and it's caused some issues. Whereas when we presented this tool, we said, we will manage the policies, we will manage all of that. You can have view access, and we're happy to work with you to get these policies developed, but we are going to own the change. And so we manage the console from end to end. We just feed the data to them.
Yeah, you know, we allow the ingestion into SIEM and SOAR and all that, but we don't allow them to own it. We wanted the ownership of it because we know how the end users use their devices. And we wanted to be able to control that a little bit because we don't want changes made that are suddenly going to wipe out a whole group of devices and cause a potential slowdown or a ground stop or something. Yeah.
And so your leadership was okay with taking the risk?
It took a little coaxing, that's for sure. Yeah.
That's what we're running into right now.
Yeah.
Is we're trying to pitch the same relationship,
Yep.
right? But our ownership is kind of wary of owning the bag, let's say, for a security tool, when traditionally, you know, our area doesn't own security tools.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, definitely being called to the fire if something happens, it's obviously on you, and that's a big step, and, you know, it creates a spotlight on your leadership, and that's something that we kind of had to overcome that hurdle and say, hey, it's okay, you know, not all publicity is bad publicity, but we'll be very thorough and make sure that we hopefully don't get ever called to that stage, but.
Yeah, and then it's probably more stable doing it this way than the other way, right?
Yes, yeah. Right. I think we just had a call, was it last Wednesday, where I got called in because they had made a change for the laptop, and they're like, hey, are you seeing this on the mobile side? And we're like, nope. So.
Because we didn't make that change.
Yeah.
And
Awesome.
it's really about that partnership, right? I mean, once they realize that you can do this and you can roll it out, then what we really saw was our leadership starting to, hey, this is cool. Starting to be, it's something they're proud of, right? They're very tentative at first because, man, y'all could, but I'm like, yeah, but we can cause a ground stop already.
Right.
This
I think security was also really, they were like, oh, here, you can own the tool. It's something we don't have to own. Cool,
Yeah.
sweet. So.
You bet.
Anybody else?
So this concept of owning the tool, but fulfilling the requirements and the kind of vision of security. Can you guys talk a little bit more about how that progressed going from one to the other?
I think it was really, so, you know, we, like a lot of companies, we had mobile threat defense on our devices. And they're starting to come up and they realize, yeah, that's not enough. We need DNS threat. We need proxy. And then you start looking at, oh, we're going to start putting 3 tools on our devices. And how is that going to impact battery health? How is that going to impact user experience and just device performance? and we're like, hold on, we have a lightweight tool we can put on here that we're going to give you all of that. That's really set up really well for mobile. We're not trying to take a DNS threat protection and just call an endpoint, because mobile's not the same. Mobile is vastly different than your laptop sitting out there or a workstation sitting at an airport or someplace else.
Well, I think on top of that, also, Chad talked about throwing multiple tools on a device and conflict and stuff and things of that nature, and how, it wasn't necessarily smart. So we gave a lot of pushback from that aspect and said, hey, it's not really great to put 5 different tools on this device to accomplish all of this when we can do one, and then you have one throat to choke. No offense, Jamf, sorry. But there was also, cost came into factor when you're paying for 5 tools and you can pay for 1. Obviously, there's a cost difference there. And then there also came a point where we kind of pushed back and said, hey, I lost my train of thought. Man, you had it.
Well, I think it really goes around that tool consolidation, right? Everybody's pushing tool consolidation. Here's a great way to consolidate down and not have all those. And just the whole thing of trying to treat all endpoints the same, it really gets into this whole argument of, we can even take it to, is UEM the best way to go versus MDM? Yeah. All these things, right? It's just, when you start trying to treat everything the same, as Daniel likes to say, you become a, what is it?
Jack of all trades, doer of none.
Yeah, because you're a master of nothing then, because you're just trying to make it work, and you're not fulfilling the best you can do on any one thing.
I think, found my thought, from a network perspective. So if we're using the same tool that our enterprise network is using, and that goes down, I'm now impacting mobile, and I'm impacting my laptops, desktop devices at the airport. Whereas if I've selected a separate tool, it's kind of a disaster recovery built in. This tool's impacted, this one's not. This continues to function, so.
And final one, you guys. So when you talk to security, what do you think was more impactful? Or maybe they're both the same. The data that you were able to show them about, performance and also behavior, or the concept that they could improve the user experience?
Data purely for security, I promise you. Yeah. I think the end user experience is probably more on our side. The data they were able to get that they weren't getting, and take action upon those.
And I'll say user experience wasn't necessarily important, but I think from the previous tool that they had selected for us to roll out, it did require some user acceptance to get certain forms of data to come through. And after that deployment went through and they realized how many users were not going to click that button, it was very eye-opening to them. I mean, I can sit and tout it until I'm blue in the face. If you tell somebody to launch an app and hit allow, they're like, no, I don't need it for my job. I'm good, thanks. That became a very real thing, and they knew that users weren't going to press this button. So to be able to provide these options without a user having to press a button, it kind of was like, oh, hey, but data was 100% the motivator.
And one of the funny stories is when we first rolled this out, they were running a phishing campaign, and we were blocking their phishing campaign. And they were like, oh, we forgot to tell you to whitelist this. And it was just funny because they weren't used to that. And it was like, they're like, can you give us a block list? We want to know how many people tried to click on it you blocked so we can send them through phishing training again. So yeah, so it worked really well in that aspect. And that, once again, just as we did that, you start getting more and more tightly in with security, and we start thinking more as one team solving problems for mobile endpoints.
Any more questions in the room?
I can't see.
All right.
Looking for hands.
All right. Well, thank y'all.
Thank you, guys.